Good evening and welcome to the Orange County School Board's Rule Development Workshop, which was scheduled for tonight for the purpose of discussing targeted rezonings for the following schools: Bay Meadows and Sand Lake Elementary Schools, Sand Lake Hills, Chain of Lakes and Southwest Middle Schools, Windermere Point and Emerald Ridge, Lake Whitney and Whispering Oak Elementary Schools. All board members are currently in attendance virtually. The school board will be hearing public comments on the targeted rezonings for each of these schools. Because this is a workshop and not a regularly scheduled school board meeting, there will be no pre-agenda meeting during which the public can normally address the school board on germane topics that are not related to the work of the board. Therefore, should you wish to address the school board on a topic other than those three targeted rezonings I just mentioned, please do so at the next regularly scheduled school board meeting on April 14th, 2020, during the pre-agenda meeting that begins at 4:30. If you wish to give comment during that meeting, please go to our website, ocps.net, and click on the school board drop-down menu, then click on school board meetings. That link will be updated by April 13th with directions for how you can participate in public input during the April 14th meeting. In order to provide governmental transparency, as well as a reasonable opportunity for the public to assess and participate in the decision-making process, new protocols were established to comply with the various emergency executive and administrative orders executed by federal, state, and local government entities, including, but not limited to, the governor's executive orders and the emergency order issued by Mayor Demings of Orange County. The protocols were designed to allow the school board to continue to perform essential services and functions in a manner consistent with law and board policy while keeping our citizens and employees safe but connected. The protocols for public participation in this meeting was sent to the families of the students in the affected areas of our student enrollment by our student enrollment department via a Connect Orange message and email. Those protocols include public comment via email and public comment telephonically. First, regarding via email, members of the public were invited to provide public comment via email for the school board's consideration at this rule development workshop by 5 p.m. on Monday, April 6, 2020. The emails that were received by that time were compiled by OCPS staff, and they were provided to each school board member electronically or by hand copy for consideration by 10 o'clock this morning. These emails will become part of the permanent record. Public comment telephonically. For those members of the public who still wish to address the school board telephonically during the public comment portion of the meeting regarding any of the targeted rezonings discussed today, the telephone number for such participation is 407-250-6270. The public is reminded that all comments made telephonically will be subject to board policies regarding civility and length of communication, which means up to 3 minutes per person, the time limit for comments that's already established through board policy. The public can provide public comment following the schedule below. For Bay Meadows and Sand Lake Elementary School, callers may get into the call queue between 4:15 and 4:30. And the comment for this targeted rezoning will take place at the conclusion of the presentation by Ms. McGowan. Sand Lake Hills, Chain of Lakes, and Southwest Middle Schools, callers can get into the queue between 4:45 and 5 p.m. And the presentation and public comments for this targeted rezoning will take place immediately following the Bay Meadows and Sand Lake Elementary Schools presentation. And then Windermere Point and Emerald Ridge, Lake Whitney, and Whispering Oak Elementary Schools, callers may get into the queue between 5:15 and 5:30. And the presentation and public comments for this targeted rezoning will take place immediately following I'm supposed to remind everybody to turn your cell phones off. Now I know why. The public comments will follow immediately after the Chain of Lakes and Southwest Middle Schools. For those watching this evening, you may hear a bell ring during public comment portion of the meeting. That bell will signal that the caller on the line has about 30 seconds left to wrap up their public comments. We're hoping that the caller can also hear that bell so that they know that their time is running short. The new public comment protocols can be found on the meetings and agenda meetings, agenda, and minutes landing page on the school rezoning landing page on the school board website. In addition, these protocols were sent to the families of the students in the affected areas by our student enrollment department via, as I mentioned before, Orange County and Orange Connect, as well as email. And now we will begin, and let me begin this meeting by turning over to Dr. Jenkins, our superintendent, to take it from here.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. We are ready now to begin the rule development presentation. Dr. Carol McGowan will walk us through that. Board members will be looking for direction from you via consensus at the end of our time on each of the targeted rezonings so that we might know how to move forward. Dr. McGowan.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins and board. I'd like to start our presentation by reminding everyone who's watching and listening that as we go through rezoning, we follow the school board policy JC. The first 4 steps are listed for you here. And our next 4 steps are listed on this slide. We are now at the rule development workshop. The timeline for this set of rezonings is shown on this slide, where our next public gathering will be at the public hearing on May 12th at 5:30. We have one school board policy for all rezonings, but we have names for different size of rezoning. We have something we call a technical rezoning, which is generally uninhabited land and no students are involved. Tonight, we have targeted rezonings, which affect a small geographic area, and there's a limited number of students involved. And then we have a rezoning for relief schools, and that's the large school opening, and it affects a large number of students. Again, this evening, all of our rezonings are targeted. The board put in place several years ago a grandfathered transfer. This transfer is designed for students who have been rezoned by OCPS 2 or more times during a grade level, kindergarten to 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 12th. It's also another criteria could be that the student has been rezoned from an established school to another established school. In this case, the student may remain at the existing established school instead of being assigned to the rezoned school. Or when we have the relief schools, they were rezoned for their 5th or 8th grade year. Transportation is not provided under this type of transfer, and all siblings must meet the same criteria. On our OCPS website, we have a way for all families to find our information and provide their input. As you can see on the screen, it marks the path on how to get to the rezoning initiative. And once we get to that, you can pick the grade level that is being rezoned. On our website, we have a way for families to provide community input. And on this slide, it shows you the 3 survey links. The provide by 4:30 on Friday, May 8th, is to help us get ready for our public hearing so all our families know when we need their information. You may email me at the address that you see on the screen. And of course, neighborhoods may take up a petition and bring that to us. As we look at Sand Lake Bay Meadows, the area in yellow that I'm outlining is the area that's under consideration to be rezoned from Bay Meadows Elementary to Sand Lake Elementary. There are currently 24 elementary students within this area. If this rezoning is accepted, the new school zone for Bay Meadows and Sand Lake would be as you see on the screen. Bay Meadows in green and Sand Lake in purple. It's our recommendation to move this area from Bay Meadows to Sand Lake, and there are currently 24 OCPS elementary students there. As of April 6th, we had received two pieces of input from our families, one in support and one opposed. And we did not receive any additional input today. At this time, Dr. Jenkins, I return the mic to you.
Thank you, Dr. McGowan. Chair, we are ready for any discussion.
We have no callers at this
But
time.
let me first find out if there are any questions or clarifications that board members have before we take public input. Member Gould, do you have comments that you need or questions you need to ask now before we hear from the public?
No, Chair, I can wait until after the public
Thank you.
commentary.
Thank you, Member Gould. So let's then hear from members of the public. Do we have any callers online?
We do not have any callers at this time.
All right, then I will recognize the district representative, Member Gould.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members. This one is one of the easier ones this evening because a lot of that map that you saw really takes in some commercial property. And as Dr. McGowan mentioned, it only has a few students. And it will make sense because around Bay Meadows is much more dense than Sand Lake currently. So it would be my recommendation that we adopt this targeted rezoning.
All right, since the board is not going to take official action at this time, I just need to find out if we have any board members who have any concerns about the direction that we are proceeding down. And if you wish to be recognized, if you have any concern, this would be a time to please indicate by giving me a cue so I can recognize you. If I don't hear from board members, I will take that as direction that we have consensus. And Ms. McGowan, at this point, I've not heard from any board members. Do you need any further direction from the board at this time on this issue?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Thank you very much. Then Dr. Jenkins, I'll go back to you.
Dr. McGowan, proceed with the second targeted rezoning, please.
Yes, ma'am. Again, and for our listening public, we have separated these out as if they are three separate rezonings so that when anybody comes into the conversation, they can see the same information that the group prior to them has seen. So once again, we're under School Board Policy JC. It is 8 steps, which are outlined on this slide and the next one. We are now currently at the Rural Development Workshop. And our calendar for this rezoning is as shown. Our next public gathering will be at the public hearing on May 12th. We do have three types, what we call three types of rezoning: technical, targeted, and relief. They are related to the number of students that are involved. Technical is generally uninhabited land or commercial property, and there are no students. Targeted has a limited number of students, and the relief school affects a large number of students, and it's a brand new school open. But all types of rezoning follow school board policy. We have in place a grandfather transfer, which is available for students involved in rezonings. There are 3 separate criteria for this one. A student could either be rezoned by OCPS 2 or more times and be eligible for this transfer, or a student could be rezoned from an established school to another established school, as we are showing in these 3 targeted rezonings. Or if it's a relief school, they're rezoned and it's their 5th or 8th grade year. If a student meets any one of these criteria, they are eligible for the grandfather transfer. And we do not provide transportation, and each student must meet the same set of requirements. On our OCPS website, we have a way for families to keep up with all that's going on with the rezoning. On our screen, you can see how you can walk to that webpage. And here is the web page when you see the rezoning initiatives and zones board approved. Folks can go to any of the sections and find out what's going on. When they open up one of the rezonings, they have an opportunity to provide electronic community input. And for this set of rezonings, you see the survey links. Once the folks hit the survey link, they have an opportunity to say if they support or
Carol, it appears we've lost your feed. You're able to hear us. Carol, we're getting intermittent.
Families can also provide input by emailing me. Oh, okay. Want me to try again?
You're back. Do you want to go back through the process by which the public can provide feedback? We lost you about that point.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. Okay, after our grandfather transfer. So on the OCPS website, we have a route for folks to get to provide their information and see all that's going on with any rezoning. And here's our rezoning initiatives. Once they click in here, there are individual survey links for each rezoning, and families may provide their input on our website. Prior to our public hearing, we will need information by Friday, May 8th at 4:30. If someone would like, they may provide their input via email to my address. Or a neighborhood or a group of folks may collect a petition, and they would just need to bring that petition to our office by Friday, May 8th at 4:30. With Sand Lake Hills, we are looking at a neighborhood that's in the hash mark. This neighborhood is divided at the present time between Chain of Lakes Middle School and Southwest Middle School. This proposed rezoning would have the area in yellow move from Chain of Lakes to Southwest. At the current time, there are 28 middle school students residing in the yellow area. And if this rezoning is approved, this is the map for the two schools. Chain of Lakes is in the purple and Southwest is in the green. It is our recommendation to move the students from Chain of Lakes to Southwest. As of April 6th, we had 9 families who had provided input. 8 were in support, 1 was opposed. And today, with the emails that came in, we have 6 more that are in favor from Southwest to move to Southwest. Dr. Jenkins?
Thank you, Dr. McGowan. We are ready to listen to any discussion, Madam Chair, and hear how we might proceed.
Thank you. Unless I see a need from board members for discussion, I'm going to call on the public for comments. Let me start, though, with Member Gould. Member Gould, do you have any questions or comments before we open it up for public comment?
No, Chair. Public comment would be great.
Thank you. Let me check with our back crew to find out if we have any callers on the line. Any callers on the line at this time?
We do not have any callers at this time.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a good sign that Ms. McGowan, as she always does, has done a very good job of communicating with the public and getting us to this point, rather than a sign that our callers don't know how to get in. So we'll assume the more positive conclusion, because we have gotten a lot of positive feedback on this, and I will look to Member Gould for a motion. No, I will not look for a motion. I apologize.
A suggestion, a strong suggestion.
Gould.
Yes, I would again ask for consensus for this rezoning. This is going to not only make the map a little neater, but it'll also help relieve Chain of Lakes a little bit.
Thank you. So thank you, Member Gould. We are not at the conclusion of this process. As As Ms. McGowan mentioned, the public hearing is yet to come, but I wanted to find out if there are any members of the board that wanted to provide some feedback at this point. And I do not see any members that have indicated they wanted to provide feedback. Let me recognize Dr. Gordon to see if Dr. Gordon has any feedback at this time.
Oh, no, ma'am. That's a delayed message, Madam Chair. You mentioned about the motion, but Board Member Pam Gould cleared it up that she was making comments, and we're doing like what you did in the very first one, getting consensus. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there's no concerns or other questions by the board, I will consider that we have consensus. And Dr. Gowan, is there anything further you need from the board on this item?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
All right, then I will turn the floor back over to the superintendent.
We are ready now for our third and final rezoning for this evening. Dr. McGowan.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Once again, we are going over our process for anyone who's come into listening to this rezoning at any given time. We have a school board policy JC. We follow for all rezonings, no matter how small or large. The steps for the rezoning are listed here, and then this slide as well. We are currently at the Rural Development Workshop, and our next step will be the rezoning timeline for this set of rezonings is in front of you on this slide. And once again, our next public hearing will be May 12th. We spoke about different types of rezonings. Again, they're described as technical, targeted, and relief, and they all follow school board policy JC. Technical, no students are involved. Targeted, a limited number of students are involved. And a relief school is generally a large number of students as we open a brand new school. Through the rezoning process, we do have something called a grandfathered transfer. To be eligible for the grandfather transfer, a student must meet one of the 3 criteria listed in front of you, which is a student's been moved 2 or more times by OCPS in a given grade level. A student is being rezoned from an established school to another established school, or a student is rezoned, then it would be their 5th or 8th grade year. Transportation is not provided by OCPS, and each child must meet the same criteria. Once again, every student who is currently attending a specific school now, and if this was approved, they would be eligible for the grandfather transfer. On our website, we have shown a path so families can come and look at all the information and also be able to provide their input for us. So on this screen, you see how to start and how we would end up with the rezoning initiative. Once we get to that page, a family may choose which grade level, click on that, and they would see any rezonings at that grade level and be able to provide their input. We provide a specific survey link for each rezoning. And once families provide that, then we put it together in the spreadsheet that is provided to you. Prior to our next group meeting, which would be the public hearing, we would need any input from our families by 4:30 on Friday, May 8th. If a family would prefer, they may email me at the email address on the slide. Or if the neighborhood would like to collect a petition, they may do so. They just would need to bring it to us by Friday, May 8th. The area we're going to discuss is basically 2 neighborhoods, Wintermere Point and Emerald Ridge. And the area in yellow is showing these neighborhoods in the spacing. The area I'm circling is Emerald Ridge. The area here on the east side is Wintermere Point, and this little road is a separate small subdivision or street of homes. Within this yellow area, there are 123 elementary students at this time. The recommendation is to move these students from Whispering Oak to Lake Whitney. This is what the map would look like if this was agreed to. And again, there's 123 elementary school students living with this area. So our recommendation is to move the students from Whispering Oak to Lake Whitney. As of April 5th, student enrollment had received 33 responses from families. 5 support this move and 28 do not. Today, an additional 2 families provided us their thoughts, and the 2 families were opposed to this rezoning. Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. And just so everyone's clear, we have been testing the call-in feature to make sure it was functioning. It was. We are happy to listen to any discussion or question from the board, and we have, I believe, 1 caller in queue.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenkins. Member Gould, again, this is in your district. If it's all right, we'll take the input from the caller first. Do we have a caller on the line? Thank you, Member Gould. Caller on the line?
Yes, we have Michael on the line.
Michael, welcome. Glad to have your feedback today. You are our first caller, so we look forward to hearing from you. I'm sure you've been instructed to give your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to complete your remarks after your name and address has been given. Again, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Michael Swickard, and I live at 1774 Morning Sky Drive, Winter Garden, Florida, 34787. Firstly, I'd like to point out that you all are very ahead of schedule, and the information that you sent out according to when people should call in, you are about 25 minutes ahead of time. So I wonder if you're getting an appropriate response. Also, the link that was sent out didn't send you to this meeting on YouTube. You had to search for it yourself. That being said, I live in Emerald Ridge, and I would like to speak against this because our community has a walking path that is safe and legal that goes under the 429, and so everyone in this community can, and most do, walk to school. I can understand how when one looks at the map, the 429 looks like a natural boundary, but when you realize that we have this sidewalk that goes all the way to the front door, rezoning the Emerald Ridge to Lake Whitney doesn't make as much sense. Keeping it zoned for a Whispering Oak wouldn't cost OCPS any money for transportation or supervision, as the students can walk. It's maybe a half a mile without any county employee assistance like bus drivers or crossing guards, and you would have to then pay to bus our students to Lake Whitney as it's over 3.5 miles away. It would also have a negative impact on their community involvement for the students. All of our neighborhood sits inside Winter Garden city limits and participates with Winter Garden organizations with their classmates, and if students are asked to rezone to Lake Whitney, that's in the Windermere community, and we would have to keep our kids with Windermere students. We would have to then have to pay the outside of Windermere fees, and everything goes along with that. And many of us bought our houses in this neighborhood, and this is in representation of all of our neighbors and all of the people who didn't get a chance to fill out anything because, like, their kids are in preschool or they haven't attended elementary school yet. We bought this neighborhood so that we can have that ability to walk to school, and also for the school's academic reputation. It's our hope that the school board takes our input into the existing infrastructure, the cost of the county, the community impact, as well as the well-being of our students to keep Emerald Ridge zoned for Whispering Oak Elementary School. Now, I'm just speaking on behalf of Emerald Ridge. I understand that you need to make these targeting, but there is a large wetland in between Windermere Point and Emerald Ridge that I believe makes a better boundary than the 429. A last thought, in these odd times that we're experiencing with COVID-19 and all of that, do we really want to add any extra stress, worry, or anxiety to our children and families by rezoning the school? I think it would be, we should let them find some stability again and take up this matter at a later date. thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you take my input to heart. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to call on Member Gould in just a minute, but first let me seek some counsel from Ms. Enval. Michael pointed out a very important point, and that is, I think we would be behind schedule. We are ahead of schedule. We had invited callers for this workshop to call in between 5:15 and 5:30, and it is just now 5:01. So that window has not even opened. Given the fact that this, rather unlike the other two, is the one that we've received the most opposition to, it's my recommendation that we continue to keep this line open until 5:30 and take all the input that we receive for that 30-minute duration that we had committed to. Would you agree with that, Ms. Imbo?
I would agree with that. I think that's important to do, and that's what I was going to recommend, that you keep it open till 5:30, which means we might have to sit here for a little bit, but I think that's important. And I think also because we are a little bit ahead, if you get other callers as well, maybe you want to listen to those.
Absolutely. If we get callers for the other two rezonings we've listened to, we can take those at the same time. I see the superintendent nodding in agreement. So let me go at this time to Member Gould first, and then we'll hear from Member Castor-Dental. Member Gould?
So this one is particularly challenging. If you look at the map, Dr. McGowan, if you could go back and kind of show the footprint of that one. Yes, thank you. We have, as an entity, been on a search for a relief school for Whispering Oak now at least 2 years. And we had some land, but it was not appropriate. It did not meet our needs because there were some EPA issues. We continue to look for land over there. But as you all are well aware, the whole from the 429 west to that Lake County line, which is that far right red line, or far left red line, is in major growth. And we have a lot of students going into Whispering Oaks. And there's really not room in any of the schools on the west side because they will continue to see growth as hopefully we all get back into an economic pathway that will allow people to continue to purchase homes and close on the houses that they've already committed to and built over there. So this is really out of desperation. The one thing that I would like to recommend that we do not normally do is allow any existing families that have students there or some variation of it to remain at Whispering Oaks if they wish to, and have new families go to Lake Whitney. I think we will in the future have to do the same thing to rezone people back to Whispering Oaks because it does make more sense to have your child walk a quarter of a mile rather than getting, is that 2 miles? I'm not sure that it is 2 miles to Lake Whitney. I'm not sure there would really be busing. Maybe the way the roads go, it would be. This is just a particularly difficult situation. We are out of land and out of room to move cars, and it's becoming a very large safety concern for me with the traffic going in and out of that school. We continue to work with the city of Winter Garden and Orange County to look at better ways to move traffic and have safety and have kids. The school is fabulous. Both schools are fabulous, so that's not an issue. And I do want to, not have kids more stressed out than they are right now with all that's going on in the world. But at the same time, more children in that school will stress the children. So if we can make this a transition for the next few years and even eliminate a few additional classrooms, I think it's a bonus. It's still going to be a very full school. And that's my comments, and I look forward to the comments of my fellow board members.
Thank you, Member Gould. Let me just ask for clarification on your suggested direction. Would that include providing transportation for this dual approach?
One is walkable, so it's not necessary for the existing footprint is walkable, so it's not necessary for that. I don't know, Carol or Dr. McGowan will have to answer if the houses that are on the far right on Point View Drive currently get transportation. I don't think they do.
Actually, Member Gould, you just answered my question. I forgot that there is no transportation involved with keeping the students where they currently are. Is that right, Ms. McGowan?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so there's no transportational impacts. So let's hear from Member Castor-Dental.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. My comments are addressing most of the parents who wrote in about the transfer to Lake Whitney, and most of them were current parents, of course, saying that they wanted their kids to stay. And then there was information provided about the grandfather rule for those students, but I didn't see that it was easy for those parents to necessarily find. Is there a way, and maybe this is farther down in the process when the decision is made, but is there a way to make a link on the school website or in those emails that go out that just take them directly to the grandfather application to make it easy for all those parents who wish to stay there?
Yes, ma'am. We do call if this is approved, we will call all parents and let them know that they could apply, and we will try to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible.
Member Castor-Dental, anything further?
No, that's helpful because I know that our district website is so full of information. Sometimes it's difficult to navigate, and just making sure that the grandfather rule application is easy to find and accessible is helpful. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Castor-Dental. I think that's excellent observation. We do have a tremendous amount of information, but it is sometimes hard to find, and especially if you don't know that you should be looking for something. So you might be able to, put the word grandfathered in, but most parents aren't even going to know that's an option to look for. So good feedback. I know that the parents that participate, that come to the meetings that Ms. McGowan hosts, they know because she covers that very thoroughly. But for the parents who either are unable to attend those, and it's a little bit harder, I think, to have that information. All right, we have a comment from Member Cobert next. Before I recognize you, Member Cobert, let me just ask if we have anyone else who has queued in for any of the prior workshops that we had. Staff can answer that question.
We don't have any additional callers at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Member Cobert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification. Member Gould mentioned something about the grandfather transfer that we don't normally do. Can you clarify? Are you asking to make any alterations to the grandfather transfer for this particular rezoning?
Member Gould, you're recognized.
Yes, I would like to offer the parents, they know the situation, current parents know the situation at the school with how full it is. So I would like to offer all of the current parents that option, if it is possible. Because, and I know that won't get us to where we want to be if they all decide to stay. But new parents coming in and new kids coming in would then go to Lake Whitney, or if they're very young, they may decide to just go ahead and go to Lake Whitney if some of their friends are going to Lake Whitney. We've done that one other time with Sunset Park and actually created a new transfer rule. If you may recall that, Member Cobert. because we had kids who had been transferring so many times and it was so disruptive. That's not the case here, but it is been a neighborhood school for a long time. And so I'm trying to make the transition as palatable as possible, but come up with some solutions because we don't know when we're going to have a relief school. Even if we find land tomorrow, certainly with the impact on our sales tax from this COVID-19, we're going to have to be relooking at that whole budget. And if we found land tomorrow and we had all the money, it would still take 3 years if it became, a priority school. So we've got to do something to help relieve this. And I don't know this will be enough, but it's a start.
Member Colbert?
Thank you. Member Gould, are you suggesting anything different with siblings, siblings who are perhaps not of school age currently?
Member Gould?
I would be open to discussion on that point and to the advice of staff. And I would, like to talk to my community. I think if you have a fifth grader and a kindergartner, that's a little bit difficult and it doesn't get us to where we need to be. But if you have a second grader and a kindergartner, that's very hard on the families. And my intent is not to make it harder on families who are already impacted by a great deal of traffic in that area, just to start to find a relief for this school. It may be helpful. Dr. McGowan, do you have the total number of portables that we currently have at that school?
Member Gowan, or Dr. Gowan?
No, ma'am, I do not have the number of portables. I just have the number of students.
Member Gould, you're recognized.
That may be something that we want to provide to the board members before the public hearing, just so that you can see and how many we added there just in the last 2 years because of the growth in that area. This is, again, not ideal. This is trying to solve a long-term problem in a short-term way until we can find appropriate location for a relief school.
Member Colbert, you're recognized.
Very good. That helps. Thank you, Member Gould.
Do we have any other comments by board members? If I don't see any, we'll stay on the line here and stay active. Let me check again and see if we have any callers.
We do not have any callers.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Dr. Jenkins in just a minute. Let me just poll the board, if I could, about your feelings about the way we took public input for this workshop in terms of the emails that you received. I personally thought the staff did a very good job of putting them together in a way that was easily readable. And but I wanted to get your input because we're considering using this for at least our next public meeting. And of course, I think throughout this time frame, we need to remain flexible and recognize we may need to change things. But any feedback on that, I'm going to recognize Dr. Jenkins, then I'm going to come back to the board since we have another 30 minutes to spend together and maybe without any other comments from public. So Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were just consulting with staff because you got 15 minutes for folks to queue in on their phone calls. We could actually put up an intermission slide saying public that we are in queue for those callers regarding this particular rezoning. 5:30 is the cutoff for those call-ins, and then we could resume the meeting at that time. Or we can continue to have additional conversation for the next 15 minutes. Just wanted to let you know we are prepared to put that screen up so that callers can get in queue between 5:15 and 5:30.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Why don't we take feedback on that last question about how board members feel about the approach that we've taken for this meeting to take public input, and then I'll check again and see if anybody has called in now that it's 5:15, and then we'll have the option of taking an intermission. Members of the board. feedback on how the email process worked? So, okay, all right, good. Let's go with Member Colbert first.
Thank you, Chair. I thought this format worked very well. Dr. McGowan provided all of the information on the surveys and feedback from the parents, including her responses to the parents. And I was able to read through all of the emails that were sent personally. So it made me feel prepared and made me feel like I had a good sense of what the public's feelings about this were. It's unfortunate that we were so far ahead because we were trying to make it so that the public didn't have to sit on the phone for so long. So a few of those things we'll learn by, but I thought this worked out very well.
Thank you, Member Colbert. I agree, and I was actually concerned we were going to be going in the other direction with people on the phone too long. So let me go. I jumped over. I'm sorry, Member Gould, and then we'll go to Member Gallo.
Thank you. I thought the advanced planning worked very, very well. I agree with Member Colbert that maybe we want to just open it. After all, if people come in at various times in the board meeting, they're kind of waiting. And the luxury of this medium is they can actually do other things while they're waiting. So it may not be as painful to hang on the line as it is, you know, to give up all the time to drive down and sit in the boardroom.
Thank you. Member Gallo.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just echo what Member Colbert and Member Gould said. I thought that this process went very well. I felt very prepared, and I'd like to thank the staff for all their hard work in prepping us to make sure that we were all together and knew how to operate virtually. This is new to us all. So I just want to say thank you, and I had no issues whatsoever. Great job.
Thank you. Let's hear next from Member Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, thank you. I too would like to give kudos to Dr. Jenkins and her wonderful staff, Serena and Adam and Arabia, who helped us to really get this. And one other person, the cabinet, running around trying to get everything to us, the executive cabinet members that have assisted us in so many ways to see that this is carried out properly. I think this is very, very professional. This is what is the norm. Miami called, believe it or not, I got a call from one of the board members in Miami and asked if we are still having meetings and did we let them go. I got one also in West Palm Beach, and they were concerned. I asked them to call our lawyers, so I think that they did. And that we were having our work sessions and our regular board meetings, if possible, that our board meetings will not discontinue, because now in a trial run, it takes a little while. We see that it is working. The voice control goes in and out. So that is an area that may need to work on. But I think the timing of the parents, even though some are working, some are not, but in the evening time, this time of day, you're still trying to get everybody ready and prep for the evening. And whatever the family has planned to do for the evening, the cooking, the studying, the getting the kids together. I still think that the 4:30 time is a good time for that. The logging in was some difficulties with the logging in. But we were able to correct those. One thing I think the gentleman in your neighborhood, Mr. Michael Swissler, I believe it is, he made some very good comments about we being 25 minutes ahead of time. And one thing, Dr. Jenkins, in her recommendation of putting up the information on the screen that when they do get home, most people automatically tune into us, you know, to the work session or to the board meeting, and they know our regular time. I do want to thank Dr. Jenkins and her staff for not changing that time, and you also, Madam Chair. But he did mention about no link was sent. So that would have been so easy to have done, but so easy to overlook because of preparations and getting all 8 of us and its executive staff ready for this. So I think we could take notation of the the screening that Dr. Jenkins mentioned, and getting the no link out to them. And even though I know we said they could come on at a particular time, some people have difficulties getting on. So even if we extended that logging on time for them, that is what I would recommend, since we've been doing so much logging on between Orange and Osceola and other counties, and finding out how other board members are getting along with how they're going, how they are holding their board meeting. I think that the timing could be longer for them, since it is our work session and we're normally there for a good little while, and for having them to give them a little bit more time. It takes time to log in, trust me, and it takes time when you get kicked off that the staff, and I want to highly recommend Adam and congratulate him on really working with me, because we just constantly ran out in and out. So if I'm having that problem, imagine what the public may be having with this new. So it's not perfect, but at least we could get some business done. But we do need to look at our time a little bit, giving more time for logging in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair, and Madam Superintendent.
And I had difficulties my first time getting through the system, getting on, if the rest of the board will vouch for how long it took me to get on. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. I do want to mention that the callers that are calling in are just using a regular telephone number, and they're not going through the same process. So hopefully that's a little easier. We do have 2 callers in the queue. But let me do this because we only have 2 more board members that want to comment on the process so far. Let me wrap up with that. We will hear from Member Byrd and then Member Castor-Dental on the public comment process and our meetings so far. Feedback on that. Member Byrd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with what everyone has said. I thought that this process works very well. The caller that we had, we could hear him well. I think that connection works great. I appreciated getting those emails. They were easy to read and easy to follow through. So I thought that was a great idea that we were able to read those comments ahead of time. I think this whole process works out very well.
Thank you. Let's hear from Member Castor-Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly appreciate the amount of practice that we went through to learn this format. I certainly needed it. And I am concerned. I share Dr. Gordon's concern about the public having the same kind of ability to navigate this platform. So I just want to make sure that we have adequate information on our website where people would normally go and directions and how to access the meeting. So I just want to make sure that we are giving them every opportunity for input. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Castor-Dental. I also think, Dr. Jenkins, some of the conversations I've had, I think that the public for our regular meeting next week will not have to access WebEx, but will be able to watch us in our regular streaming process. But if you're able to confirm that for us, either through this meeting or as a follow-up individually, that would be helpful, because I think it would be much easier if the public doesn't have to go into WebEx to watch. Dr. Jenkins?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so the public will have their normal form of following the meeting, but if they're going to participate by giving comments during the meeting, then they'll have that one phone number. And Member Castor-Dental, I think your concern, my concern as well, is making sure that we give the public information in advance about how they participate. Agreed. Thank you. All right, let's go to the callers we have on the line.
All right, we have Selena on the line.
I'm sorry, can you say the name again?
Selena,
welcome. We're glad to have you on the call. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments after you've given your name and address.
Thank you very much. My name is Selena Roldan. That's Roldan. I live at 1852 Nesting Lane in Winter Garden, Florida. That's Emerald Ridge. I've been a resident there since 2004, and I am a grandmother to children who purposely moved to the neighborhood for that elementary school so we wouldn't have to put the little ones in a school bus. I walk with them. They ride their bike. I get a little exercise. I am disabled, and I take my granddaughter to school. She's in the 3rd grade. She has made a card for her teacher who was out on maternity leave, and they have this relationship with the school administration as well. And I know that you guys, that this is a very difficult decision for you to make, but I wish you could see our faces, even though that this meeting is taking place. When you see our emotions and our faces, and if we were able to bring our children to the meeting, you could see that our school, our population at Emerald Ridge is not a very large population. And being the proximity, they can't walk to school because there's not a walking road. It's too far. But they can ride because if we go out the back exit, the back entrance and exit, there's a nice pavement there which they walk on Stony Brook, ride their bikes, do their scooters, and it's so cool in the morning. It even feels like a real neighborhood, like, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, and hello, and everybody's waving and riding and scooting and exercising. I myself, I'm 63 years old, and I walk every morning to take my granddaughter to school, even though she might ride. I can't ride anymore. But I think it's less than a half a mile. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't clocked it. But losing that, it takes my breath away, and I wish you could see the emotion in my face because having to drive into Windermere, although I understand that that school is also a very good school, but having to go the other way when the way that we should be going is right the back in like a neighborhood walking to school, that really takes a lot away from Emerald Ridge. So I beg and plead with you that I know that this is a difficult situation and the schools are crowded and there's grandfather in and there's lots of opportunities for us, that many people that bought the house there was for that purpose. We're a small neighborhood, small community. We're not a Stony Brook. We're not a big neighborhood. We're very small. And to put these little kids, little children in a bus to send them to Windermere when they can just walk or ride, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not sure if you know the familiarity with 535 going on 535 towards Windermere. It's very busy, and it's going in the opposite direction of going to work when my son and his wife have to go to a school meeting and go to work. Can you still hear me?
Selena, we can hear you, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, it just doesn't make any real sense for us. We understand the overcrowding to take Emerald Ridge away from Whispering Oaks. It would be great if somebody else wanted to go to the other school, that they would have that choice even when they first come in. But the proximity is just excellent. I really wish that you guys would consider it. I have such a great relationship walking my granddaughter to school and seeing her safely home and not having to worry about the white van picking her up at the bus stop. It's a time to crazy. The time's different. It's a new order. And I really wish that you would reconsider not
Selena, your time is about up. Let me say this. You said you wish that we could see you and your grandchildren's faces, and I can tell you on behalf of the whole board, we wish we could too. As a 63-year-old, wish that I was a grandma, mother of 4. I relate to everything you said, and I think your grandchildren are incredibly blessed that they have a grandmother who has the time to spend with them walking their children to school every day. So thank you for calling in to share that message, that story. It resonates with all of us. Thank you. And now if we can hear from our next caller. Thank you.
We have our next caller, Stephen, on the line.
Was that Stephen? Stephen, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments, and we'll start our timer after you give your name and address. And we appreciate you taking the time to call in to share your thoughts and concerns. Welcome. Did we lose Stephen? Dr. Jenkins, if you're able to send a text to the staff, queuing the phone calls, and let them know we have a problem.
We're checking.
Thank you. Sounds like the sound of somebody being put on hold.
It seems we have lost Steve.
Okay, it is 5:32. Let's give Stephen just another minute or two to call back in. And did you have any other callers on the line?
We do not have any other callers.
Okay, and who am I speaking to? Is this Adam?
Daniel?
Ryan? Daniel. Darn. Thanks, Daniel, for your help. Daniel, we'll give Stephen just another minute to call back in. I'm not sure how we lost him.
They believe he may have hung up. They're double checking. They're trying to reach him.
Okay. Dr. Jenkins, let another minute go by. Do you know if you said they're trying to check with him? Do they have a callback number for him?
Stand by.
Okay.
They do have a number. They're trying to reach him now. Stand by.
Thank you. Carol, while we're waiting, your ability to be able to circle the error area that our last caller was referencing was helpful to the board. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Chair, they're not getting an answer to the number that he left. They're going to try him one more time.
All right, we'll give it one more try, and then we will have to assume that maybe he changed his mind.
No answer, Chair.
Okay. So we've heard from Member Gould. Member Gould, if you have any final comments, and we've heard from several board members wanting some clarification about Member Gould's thoughts on allowing students that are currently enrolled to continue out their years there, and all new students going to the alternative school site like Whitney. So Member Gould, we'll hear from you. And then if I don't hear any concerns or opposition from other board members, we'll take that as consensus. Member Gould.
I also wanted to just chime in on the thanks to the staff and to the school board members for moving forward on this rule development we still are managing growth, even though we're forgetting about that because it's so quiet out there right now and we're all in our homes. But, people who have already purchased their homes are moving in. We have people who have purchased their homes that have young children that are getting school age ready. And that issue is not going to abate for some time. In our whole community, but especially here on the west side of town. So thank you for taking the time tonight and making this work, because I know it was not the most ideal of circumstances, but I just didn't feel this could wait with the amount of students that we've seen and the influx of new students. And I think that while it again, not the ideal, it does allow people to stay that have been there, but gives us some relief going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Gould. I see no other comments from board members. I do want to close this out by recognizing that we have consensus to continue down this direction. No new direction has been identified. However, this is not a final decision by the board. The final decision will come at our next meeting, which is a full public hearing where we'll take public input and make a decision at that time. And if there's any further comments, Dr. Jenkins, before we adjourn this meeting, I wanted to call on you and recognize you before we end.
No further comments, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, let me just take this then a minute just to recognize the work of the staff, not just in coordinating this meeting, but the enormous amount of work that is going on behind the scenes to try to navigate how best to educate our students, how to provide for the health and safety of our teachers and our entire staff of 25,000 employees. I know there's an enormous amount of work that most won't see. But we very much appreciate all the work that's gone into it, the patience of our parents and our students. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of glitches and challenges. And for anybody who might be watching, I want you to know that the superintendent, her cabinet, the entire board are committing to figuring out the best way to get us through this crisis and to keep us all of sound mind and keep our children moving forward. So thank you. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.